Hi, Jody Hardesty with Empowered Heart Connections. Thank you for watching. Sometimes when we have broken up with someone and we are in a lot of pain, we decide that it's time to start dating again immediately. And often this goes south sooner or later because we haven't taken the time to really do the work to heal and recover from those relationships. So whenever we have a wound or a hole in our heart, so to speak, because of the loss of a relationship, even if you felt like it was a terrible relationship or it was a relationship that wasn't ever going to go anywhere, it still can be experienced as a loss. And most of us need time to be able to heal and recover from that loss before we're able to move forward in a healthy relationship. So, for example, if we find that we are really desperate to fill that hole in our heart with another human being, the relationship can go pretty ugly. And we end up, even if that was the right person, having a disastrous relationship because we're really not ready. And we can kind of even appear a little bit desperate or a little bit needy, but it's difficult to really maintain a functioning relationship whenever you are trying to rush it. And I know it's hard because nobody wants to feel the hurt. Nobody really wants to deal with the pain of loss. But it is a process, and it's usually a painfully slow process. There's been some people who have theorized that for however long you were together, it takes twice that long for you to actually recover from the loss. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a good or a bad relationship that you're recovering from. It's the loss of usually what we had hoped it would be that is kind of the most painful part. Is we have these dreams and visions of what we think our relationships are going to be like, even if they're with the completely wrong person, and we try to make them fit into that box. And usually, especially if it's a relationship that is not a great relationship from the get-go, it causes a lot of hurt and a lot of wounds. And it takes quite a while to repair some of those wounds and to learn basically who you are without that person, to establish what you want in a future relationship. So imagine you are completely raw and you're vulnerable and you're tender, and imagine what kind of people you're going to draw into your life in that state of mind. Usually that's when people who aren't so ideal to be partners with come in and swoop you up. If you're really vulnerable and you're easy to be manipulated, you're probably going to find someone who's willing to do that. And they may try to make you into the person that they want you to be, rather than having you be a compatible partner. So if you take the time to do the work, do the healing, do the grieving, dig into what about that relationship was good, what was bad, what do you want to take forward, what do you want to completely let go of and never touch again with a 10-foot pole, and how are you going to learn to love yourself before you even bother dating? And this is the challenging part. If you are one of those people that just can't wait and you've got to date, be very, very, very careful because, like I said, you're very, very vulnerable. You're susceptible to being prey to someone who has maybe some narcissistic tendencies or maybe willing to kind of compromise your value in order to get what they want. Because when we appear kind of desperate and needy, or when we appear wounded or vulnerable, that's a real kind of feeding ground for perpetrators. And that's why it's really, really can be dangerous to date before you're really ready and you've done all the work to really feel solid in yourself. But if you have to date, take it so slow. And I mean super slow, because remember, your judgment isn't always very accurate. Whenever we're wounded, when we're healing, we're in a state of almost a disconnect, right? We're in a state of hurting, and we're in pain, and we're tender and vulnerable, and our brains aren't working as well as they do when we're done with that grieving process. So be very cautious if you are going to choose to date whenever you have just broken up with somebody, you've just experienced a loss. Even if it's a loss that you're grieving for some other experiences, that it's important to take the time to go through those processes, go through the sadness, go through the bargaining, go through the denial, go through the anger alone. And with a support system, obviously it's important to make sure that you're getting support from friends and families, a therapist, coach, something in order to help somebody be on your team who's actually looking out for your best interest, but not somebody who you're potentially wanting a long-term relationship with, because it's usually not a great time to do that. So once you've done all that work and you've done all that healing and you've explored what those pros and cons were of that relationship, and you've also done the work to evaluate, what did I bring to that relationship? How did I contribute to the dysfunction of that relationship? Because I very rarely have seen one person as a total bad guy and the other is sitting at home reading a book, behaving perfectly in every way, while the other person is a bad guy. That rarely happens. Usually we have some sort of contribution that we do to a dysfunctional relationship, even if that is allowing someone to lie to you, allowing somebody to be cruel to you, and kind of discounting or enabling that. So even though obviously there are true victims that their brains change in those situations and it's really difficult to get out, but if you've gotten out of that relationship, it's time to learn from what those bad things were. Again, and it's usually both people just have issues. Everyone does. All humans do, right? So if you can learn what your issues were, what your issues are, and work on healing those issues while you're single, that is so much better for you and your future partners. And it's more likely to draw in the kind of person that you really want in your life, rather than having this kind of serial monogamy that most people have, that where you're like, oh, another disaster, oh goody, another disaster, because you haven't taken the time to do the healing yourself. So making sure that you're slowing way down, evaluating, who am I? What do I like? What do I bring to the table? What do I need to work on? What are some things that might drive someone bonkers? What are some things about me that people are going to adore? What are those things? And what are my expectations and hopes for my future partner? And why have I not been looking for that in the past? What's stopping me from, when I see these red flags, or even orange flags, or even pink flags, that I'm not going, hey, I'm going to deal with that, I'm going to evaluate that, instead of just letting them continue to be in my life or continue to date? What makes you excuse those behaviors that aren't going to work for you? But until you do all of that work and you really truly learn to love and accept yourself and appreciate your own company, it's really, really challenging to find a partner who you can really, truly want to bring into your life. Because it takes really knowing and loving ourselves in order to be open to and to draw in the right kind of person that can match our energy. So it's a tough process, and it takes a lot of work, but it's also really, really rewarding. I know from experience, I've done this, where you date someone and you're like, oh, this really hurts, where's the next person? And you find another person and you cram them in the hole in your heart, and it just doesn't work, and it's tragic, and it goes badly, and it just puts you further behind the 8 ball when you're trying to heal. And the beauty is whenever you take the time to do all the healing and do the work yourself, what you can find is a true love and appreciation for yourself, and I can tell you that is a remarkable gift. It's remarkable to be able to love and accept yourself, and to know that, hey, you know what? if I want a partner in my life, I want to feel like they actually bring something to my life. I want to feel like we actually are already two whole people and we're already comfortable with ourselves. And we're not trying to cram two broken people together to create a whole person, but we're actually taking two whole, healthy, functioning people and we're bettering our lives together. We're enhancing each other's lives. We're not trying to replace some hole or replace some insecurity or fill some issue that we have with another human being. We're really trying to promote wellness and health in each other, and we're actually adding some attributes to our lives. We're contributing to the success of our lives. We're benefiting each other rather than just trying to complete this impartial whole that we have. And many people do this. So if you've done this, you're not alone. I know I've done it too. And many people have. And usually it's because we don't really realize that we need the time to do the work. Because doing the work, even though it's hard, the only way through it is to experience it, to embrace it, to let it be what it is. And eventually you get through the other side. I know it's challenging, especially if you've just experienced a loss or a breakup, but it is really necessary to do what it takes to get through to the other side. And I know sometimes it feels like whenever you're in the depth of the pain that it's never going to stop, and if I really allow myself to really feel this pain is never going to go away. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people be afraid of that, but it never happens. It does go away. It always passes if you let those emotions come up, if you let yourself feel the pain, feel the depth of the pain. The beautiful part is through it, through the pain is the healing, through the pain is the recovery, through the pain is where you see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it does pass, but you gotta feel the pain in order to get to the other side. And it's scary, but it is so worth it. So I hope that if you've experienced a loss, I'm so sorry for your loss and for that grief. I know it's painful, but I also know that it is possible to get through to the other side. And if you give yourself some room and some time to really process through that experience and allow yourself to heal, then finding a compatible partner eventually when you're ready, because you might find once you've done that, you're like, hey, single's not so bad. But once you're ready for that relationship, that it's going to be much more fulfilling for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you next time.